preparing for this, I was reflecting that I have a multi-level appreciation of Srila Prabhupada. At the lowest level, I appreciate Srila Prabhupada as just the person who saved me from what was looking like it was going to be a very miserable life in the material world. I was in a very bad place without getting into any details. And by coming in contact, first initially from coming in contact with Prabhupada's books, that was really helpful. I don't know if it was that the philosophy made a lot of sense to me, or that it was just the spiritual potency of the books that had a tremendous influence on me and made me feel kind of, like a bit sane and calm and like there was some hope, or the combination of both. But the books really were a very big factor. I received maybe like a half a dozen books before I actually came in contact with, went to the temple. And then when I went to the temple, the devotees were incredible. Everybody was so friendly and so encouraging, and it was very easy to join. I mean, it was just very easy to become part of the temple. So that saved me. All of a sudden I had, from just sitting around doing nothing, basically lost contact with all my old friends and everything, I had all of a sudden a philosophy, a reason to be living, and good friends and good food, and it was like, all of a sudden, boom, I just got a second shot at life there. So I really, genuinely appreciate that. Of course, that's Prabhupada, his books and his devotees. On the next level up, I appreciate Prabhupada as somebody who gave me something that worked. Because very early on, in my practice of Krishna consciousness, I experienced a higher taste for chanting. It's something, it comes and goes, and more it's gone but it definitely was there, and it didn't take years. I mean, I remember experiencing a higher taste for chanting just going out on the chanting party as a new bhakta. That was what everybody did. As when they first joined, we used to go out onto the street 4, 5, 6 hours a day, just chant in different public places. And I remember experiencing a higher taste for chanting doing that. And also once again, early on in my career, trying to be a devotee, experiencing amazing things happen on book distribution that I have, at least I know it's subjective, but in my mind I have to put it in the category of supernatural, the kind of thing. And still to this day, that experience is there. Things happen that make me stop and think to myself, nah, there's no way this could happen ordinarily. I mean, there's something special going on here. There's some Krishna's involved, So those kind of experiences make me feel that, well, yeah, for sure, this Prabhupada's giving, there's something real about this. It's giving me something it works, and therefore, well, it works. Therefore, there must be something real about this. These experiences help me have more faith and conviction in, the philosophy and the process like that. On the next level, I don't know if this is going up or to the side, but I appreciate, well, it took some time, but I appreciate Prabhupada as somebody who was not a hypocrite, no double standard. I mean, I had to observe for a while, but I joined in 73, so at least from 73 to 77, I could never even pick up a whiff of anything that smacked of hypocrisy or double life. No, Prabhupada was just always public, and he's always showing the example. He was really, you could see, he was practicing what he was preaching. What he was telling us, he was doing. And it was all for people's benefits. That was another feeling I got, that whatever Prabhupada was doing, it was all good intentions. So he was somebody who had all good intentions to help, his immediate followers and the whole world, and there was no hypocrisy. He was the real deal, unlike, if you're familiar with so many different yogis and people, there's stories about how they got involved with this or that. Not Prabhupada. Prabhupada was squeaky clean, and good intentions all the way through. So that was another level of appreciation of Prabhupada. And then the next level of appreciation is, there's an expression in English that, if say somebody's really annoying you, you might say, this person drives me crazy, or listening to the news drives me crazy. I mean, it's a genuine phenomena. People do feel like they're getting driven crazy if they're in the wrong association, or I don't listen to the news. If you listen to the news, you could have that effect on you. Prabhupada is the opposite. Prabhupada drives you sane. At least that's my experience. Whereas some people might drive you crazy, listen to the news might drive you crazy. Listening to Prabhupada drives me sane. I have a regular program for listening to Prabhupada lectures. I just chronologically listen to them. I go on this thing called Vanipedia, or Prabhupada Vani, pick your pick, and you could listen to the lectures, from the very beginning, 1966, all the way through, and that's what I do. That's my program. I just listen, lecture after lecture after lecture, and when I get to the end, I'll start back at the beginning again. And I find it like it's an anchor. It just kind of keeps me on target, keeps me sane, keeps me, able to do what I got to do. This is, a crazy world getting crazier by the day, but it's something I know I can turn to for sanity and, focus and tranquility and something, meaningful and just helps. It has that same effect on me that the books had in the beginning, that it just makes me feel like a normal human being who can, try to continue in the attempt to be a devotee. And to the point where, to be honest with you, I actually use Prabhupada's lectures to be able to sleep at night. It's very practical. In other words, this is not some high theoretical sort of a thing. Sometimes I just can't fall asleep. I'll do different things. I won't give you the names to describe it. But generally, the only thing that works is I'll just put on a Prabhupada lecture, and I just lie down, and I just got to listen to it, and within 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes at the most, I'll fall asleep. And another really unusual thing that happens is when the lecture finishes, I wake up. So it's caused me to think about that, and it's Prabhupada's, it's transcendental sound vibration. And I have this faith or conviction that whatever's supposed to happen beneficial for me is going to happen if I'm willing to give submissive oral reception to Prabhupada's sound vibration. I feel like confidence it's only going to benefit me. So that I do that, and it really does work. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has ever tried that, but it works for me. I feel like sometimes a little bit bad, or is it offensive to be falling asleep when your spiritual master is speaking? In one sense it is, but it's just what enables me to function. So it's very practical. So that's a further appreciation. And I kind of touched upon this, I started already, but Prabhupada's sound vibration, it's transcendental. And Prabhupada, his books, his lectures, everything, it's transcendental sound vibration. And Prabhupada, was a special personality. In the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 25, text 25, there's a verse, and in the purport, Prabhupada talks about heroism. And he explains that there's two types of heroes. There's the material hero, like a big businessman or politician or something like that. And he said, and the spiritual hero. And he defined the spiritual hero as somebody who's able to restrain their senses from material engagement. And of course, Prabhupada's the best example of that. Prabhupada was a genuine spiritual hero. And in the purport it says that if somebody could do that, they deserve to be the title of Goswami. So Prabhupada was a genuine spiritual hero, to the point where he was able to inspire other people to try to do the same thing, to follow in his footsteps. He was an inspiration. And that's amazing when you consider who Prabhupada had to deal with. It's us. There's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 4th chapter, text 20. It goes, Kirata Hunanda Pulinda Pulkasha Abira Sumba Yavana Kasaraya Yene Chapapa Yada Pashraya Shraya Sujanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. So it's listing all these different races of people that are considered outside the Vedic culture, you know. And then it goes Yene Chapapa and others, other sinful ones. It lists about 8 or 10 of them, and it says there are others. Yene Chapapa Yarapashraya Shraya, but means if they take shelter of the pure devotee, Tushanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Nama, by the power of Vishnu, they can get purified. In other words, Krishna works through his pure devotee. Krishna was working through Prabhupada. And because despite the fact that we are Vedic outcasts, you know, by that criterion, we're all the people, not worldwide. I mean, it's stated someplace in the Bhagavatam, Kalo Sudra Sambhavan, that in Kali Yuga, everybody's a Sudra low because nobody does, you know, performs Garbhadan Samskar. So we're all Vedic outcasts. So Prabhupada was able to inspire people coming from that category of Vedic outcasts, Malechas, Yavanas, and Chandalas, to try to become pure devotees, like he was. It's really incredible when you stop and think about it. And you might say, well, yeah, he did, it's, you know, the novelty, and look at so many have fallen away. Okay, that's true, but a lot haven't. There's a lot of good examples. There's a lot of devotees who have stuck with it and are really, you know, giving a very impressive example of being followers of Prabhupada. So that's there. So that's a major appreciation. And one final thing, just, you know, trying to glorify Prabhupada a bit more on the same point. There was one morning walk where Prabhupada was, I can't remember, I tried to track it down last night, I couldn't locate it, but I've heard it several times. I know I'm not imagining this. That Prabhupada was walking and they were talking, and at one point a devotee said, you know, kind of blurted out, said, Prabhupada, it says in the Bhagavad Gita that only, he quoted that a verse, I can't remember if he still had to quote the Sanskrit or not, but it's the one that goes, only those who've acted piously in this life and in previous lives, and whose sinful activities are completely eradicated, can engage in devotional service. And so he quoted like that, and then he started to say, Prabhupada, does that mean that, you know, we, your disciples, that we acted piously in previous lives? And Prabhupada cut him off. Prabhupada cut him off and said, I have created your good fortune. Okay? So, you know, our effort has to be there, but it's a lot of Prabhupada's mercy. There's a lot of Prabhupada's mercy that figures into the equation there. Sure, you know, we have to be trying, but that pastime is there. So Prabhupada was, you know, somebody who, on my highest level of appreciation, who was a genuine spiritual hero. And he, you know, to the point where he gave other people, as many people as were willing to take it up, the opportunity to become like himself, you know, elevate to the highest spiritual level. And part of it, in doing that, he's simultaneously giving a lot of mercy. So it's like, in the Krishna book, there's some statement where it says, if you take one step towards Krishna, he takes 10 steps towards you. So it's like that with Prabhupada. You know, Prabhupada showed it, the example himself. He's said, this is what you got to do to become like me. And then anybody who's willing to take it up and try, Prabhupada's there to pull them along, you know, pull them along and help them. So all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Jai.
Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshtarine. So as I was preparing to speak, I was feeling a little bit unqualified. So I've decided to start my offering by reading the offering of a disciple of Srila Prabhupada from the first Vyasa Puja, which I've heard and read from many times. It's such a beautiful pastime that I encourage you all to delve into. The perfection is in our relationship with our spiritual master and in following his teachings. His main teaching to us is to chant Hare Krishna and to be happy. Everyone is looking for some mercy from others in this age of Kali. It is very rare that you find it, but Srila Prabhupada is all merciful. He instructs us to chant, which is the recommended method for self-realization for this age, and then he tells us to be happy. And he is our most dear well-wisher. As a matter of fact, he is our only well-wisher. So this day is very auspicious, and we all pray that Srila Prabhupada will stay with us even after his disappearance. He will still be with us in his teachings and in our hearts. But it is such a glorious thing that we are having now in our eyes. So from that offering, from that devotee, I just want to highlight a couple of things. First, I want to really glorify the beautiful innocence of the early days of Gaudiya Vaishnavism in North America. There's like so in all the different offerings that you can read in this nice transcript. There's no talk of conflict and quarrel, and there's no talk of like shastric minutiae that we have to have conferences and papers written about, and all these different things. It's so innocent. Srila Prabhupada at the very beginning gave something incredibly pure, which is just chant Hare Krishna. Chant 16 rounds a day. Chant in the street when you can to introduce other people to the chanting of Hare Krishna. And this is something that I beg Srila Prabhupada to really fully enter into in my own life. I've been meditating a lot recently about, how can I chant like it's 1966, and how can I imbibe that innocence and that excitement of just being one of the very first people in North America who had ever heard the mantra and just went with it. How can I surrender in the way that they did? So I want to glorify Srila Prabhupada for simplifying everything, which was the only way to bring Mahaprabhu's mission to the West. It's the only way. I mean, if he had first translated the Hari Bhakti Vilas instead of the Bhagavad Gita, he probably wouldn't have had so many takers, right? Being a devotee is not easy. And I was reminded of that recently by someone that I respect very much. There was a conversation between Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada in which he asked, Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked, Srila Prabhupada, I thought you said devotional service is easy. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, it's not. I never said it's easy. I said it's simple. So there's so many difficulties that we're going to face on our path towards self-realization, but I just want to thank Srila Prabhupada thousands and thousands of times for making it simple. Giving us the mantra, giving us Harinam Sankirtan, giving us his books, and giving us the beautiful spiritual sandwich morning and evening programs on either end. This is the very simple formula for devotional service that if we seriously embrace it, is sure to deliver us all. So thank you so much, Srila Prabhupada, for giving us a simple path to devotional service. Otherwise, there would be no hope for me and for tens of thousands of other people, I'm sure. And even though it's simple, I will still struggle, and please always bless me to focus on keeping the main thing the main thing. Thank you very much.
Jai, thank you, Vrindavan Natwa. Our next speaker will be Mother Balai, our most senior Prabhupada disciple. And I requested her on her birthday, because on your birthday in Vedic culture you're supposed to give in charity, so I said, I want the charity that you speak on Prabhupada's Disappearance Day, and she agreed, so.
Glories to the assembled devotees. Thank you. Not mine. Hare Krishna. This is something from July 31, 1977, Srila Prabhupada, conversation with his disciples. I'm going to read a few different things and some remembrances. So, there is nothing new to be said. This is Prabhupada speaking. There is nothing new to be said. Whatever I had to say, I have already said in my books. Now you must all try to understand it and continue with your endeavors. Whether I am present or not present doesn't matter. Just as Krishna is living eternally, the living being also lives eternally. But especially, Kirtir Yasha Sajivati, one who has done service to the Lord lives forever. You have been taught to serve Krishna, and with Krishna will live eternally. Our life is eternal. Nahanyate hanyan mami sarire. The disappearance of this temporary body doesn't matter. The body is meant for disappearance, so live forever by serving Krishna. Thank you very much. This is from when Srila Prabhupada, who was in April 1968, when Srila Prabhupada installed the first, actually Lord Jagannath had already been installed in San Francisco, but Prabhupada was in New York and he was installing Lord Jagannath, Srimati Subhadra, and Lord Balaram, and also the first Radha Krishna deities. And also he performed a marriage of myself and my husband Adwaita, and Himavati and Hansaduta, and initiated a few different devotees. Now somehow this lecture was available, but it's disappeared. But before it disappeared, I transcribed some things, so I'm just going to read part of it. If someone can ever find this, it'd be great. So Srila Prabhupada. Wait, where is it? So Prabhupada instructed my mother to say, "My girl was so long under my guidance. Now I entrust this girl under your guidance." Adwaita says, "I accept this girl for life." Balai says, "I accept you as my husband to serve you throughout my whole life." Srila Prabhupada, you are promising before Radha and Krishna, so you must take this responsibility. I speak to the husbands especially. According to Vedic principles, a woman is always to be given protection. They have no freedom. Women are like children. If you give freedom to a child, it means death to them. They are tender, feeble, and weak. People will exploit them. So long as a girl is young, she is under the protection of her parents. In India, girls don't mix with boys. Then she is handed over to a suitable boy to take charge of her. In old age, the husband leaves home and takes sannyas. There is no question of divorce or separation. If there is any misunderstanding between the husband and wife, it should be neglected, not taken seriously. Just like if there is fighting between two goats, it should not be taken seriously. They cannot hurt each other. If there is thunder sound in the sky in the morning, it should not be taken seriously. There is no rain. Nobody should go to court. This is misuse of understanding. No question of divorce. It is lifelong. You are promising before the Supreme Lord Krishna. If you break this promise, there will be serious reaction. I am very happy. As a sannyasi, I am not to perform marriage ceremonies, but for the benefit of my disciples, I am doing it. Please remember your responsibility and be happy and chant Hare Krishna. There is no need of abstinence, but don't beget children like cats and dogs. A person in Krishna consciousness must be serious about their position. If you can produce children in Krishna consciousness, then you may have hundreds of children. Otherwise, no children. I'm finding it, what I wanted to say. So at the end of the ceremony, Srila Prabhupada was sitting on his, it's just really like a table with a cloth on it. That was Prabhupada's Vyasasana. And he was honoring prasadam, and he had a popper on his plate, and he broke it into pieces, which really affected me at that time. I hadn't ever seen Srila Prabhupada honoring prasadam. He broke it into pieces and was eating piece at a time. Then he said, he looked at me and he said, Balai is looking like goddess of fortune. I had a red sari on, I had my hair down. He said, Balai is looking like goddess of fortune. And he said to Adwaita, my husband, you are fortunate, you have got such nice wife. You must treat very well. Then he said to my mother, your girl is very lucky because she has Krishna consciousness and how nice she looks. Take prasadam as much as you like, and should be taken nicely so that we shall forget eating all nonsense. So, and also at the beginning of the ceremony, before it started, there had been garlands made for Srila Prabhupada and the devotees, but before Prabhupada accepted his, or had anyone else distribute them, he asked them to be put on the disciplic succession on the altar. So that was very important to Prabhupada. And then when Srila Prabhupada visited the Boston Temple, I don't know what year it must have been 69 maybe, the Boston Temple. So before that, Srila Prabhupada wanted our own press because we were using Dynapan in India, Japan and other places, but it was taking a very long time and was very costly to have all these books printed. So Srila Prabhupada wanted our own press. So he deputed 4 young devotees, they were all in their early 20s and teens, to learn how to run a printing press. So he had Adwaita learning the printing press, Vaikuntha learned stripping, I think it's called, photography and stripping, Uddhava learned bookbinding and different things. So Prabhupada was writing letters to Adwaita. If you ever read the letters, there are a lot of letters to Adwaita, and Prabhupada was saying, wherever you find the place to have the press, that's where we'll go. So all the devotees who were working on the press were just sitting, waiting to know, are we going to India? Are we going to Canada? Are we going to New Zealand? We had no idea. So Boston was the first place that got a huge building, and they converted it, the first floor and the basement, they converted into a press. They put pillars on to hold the press machinery. So we had 2 printing presses and a folding machine, and in the basement was photography and layout and everything. When Srila Prabhupada visited there, he came to the door where the press was, opened the door, and Srila Prabhupada looked in and he just stopped. He said, Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripajakacharya Astatara Sata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. My Guru Maharaj would be very pleased. And then he started touring the press, and the devotees were running the press with their dhotis on, and Prabhupada said no. He said there should be no dhotis on the press. You must wear pants because they could get caught in the machinery. And then he toured the rest of the press and liked it very much. And then there's another time in Boston when it was either Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's appearance or disappearance, and Satsrupa Maharaj, it wasn't Maharaj then, but Satsrupa was the president, and he asked all the devotees to write something for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So many of us did. I remember I wrote a poem, other devotees wrote offerings, and then Satsrupa sent them to Srila Prabhupada, who was in Los Angeles at the time. When Srila Prabhupada sat here on the Vyasasana, and he asked that all the prayers be read in the congregation. While he was speaking, he asked them all to be read. And he said, I have nothing to offer my Guru Maharaj except these prayers from my disciples. And then he asked that they be published in the Back to Godhead magazine, which they were. They were all published in the Back to Godhead magazine. And what else? It's one time in New York Temple, Brooklyn Temple, Srila Prabhupada was sitting on the Vyasasana, and there was ecstatic kirtan going on. And Srila Prabhupada was playing the gong with the mallet, and Bali Mardan was there, and he had a gong, but he was just banging it with his hands. Srila Prabhupada motioned for him to come over and was trying to hand him the mallet so he could play it properly, and Bali Mardan was saying, no, he didn't want to take the mallet from Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada insisted, And then Prabhupada picked up his cane and started playing the gong with his cane. He just used whatever was necessary to serve Krishna. Should I go on? Okay, let's see. That's this one. Oh, here, this is really nice. In Boston also, when we first started making flower garlands for Srila Prabhupada, we just used like pom-poms or sometimes carnations. And then Srila Prabhupada told us that scented flowers would help with his headache, so we started using a few scented flowers. It was Mother's Day, I believe, in Boston, and we couldn't get flowers. They were so expensive. So I went to a florist, and they had a whole bunch of rose petals. So I asked if I could have the rose petals. Now, we had never strung a rose petal garland. We had no idea. So I'm going to string these rose petals for Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada wore it, and I happened to be in the car with him, and he kept smelling the garland, and he said, "This garland is first class." So it was just an accident. Krishna guided me within the heart how to make this garland. In New York, 61 Second Avenue, my mother was there. Actually, quite a few letters between Srila Prabhupada and my mother. One was because my sister, who was also a devotee, wanted to quit high school. And my mother didn't want her to quit high school. So she wrote to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada instructed, no, she should finish high school. So she did finish high school. But when my mother came to one of the lectures, after the lectures, Prabhupada was walking out, and my mother just put out her hand to shake Prabhupada's hand. Now, you're not supposed to touch a sannyasi, especially women, but Prabhupada took her hand and shook her hand. And he said, "You should come to my lectures as long as I'm in New York." So again, like unfathomable mercy from Prabhupada. Okay, we were all sitting in Srila Prabhupada's room. Himavati presented Srila Prabhupada with a bead bag and kurta she had made for him. He touched the cloth and looked pleased. Hansadutta, her husband, was also there, and he had his japa beads around his neck without a bead bag. Srila Prabhupada asked him if he needed a bead bag and wanted to give him the one he had just received. He was like, "Here, take this." But Hansadutta explained that he had a bead bag, but he had washed it and it was drying, but Srila Prabhupada still wanted to give him his bead bag. So beads are supposed to be in bead bags, not hanging down, especially not toward the floor. Oh, and Prabhupada said, Hansadutta said, "No, Srila Prabhupada, it's yours." Srila Prabhupada said, "What's mine is yours, what's yours is mine, everything belongs to Krishna." Actually, when I was a new devotee, I had just started coming, and we had an engagement at someone's apartment. So I was with Brahmananda and Gargamuni in a cab, and we drove there, but we couldn't get in. So when we got back, on the way back to the temple, I said, "Easy come, easy go." And Brahmananda said, "Krishna gives and Krishna gives away. Krishna gives and Krishna takes away." And that was when I really realized how personal Krishna was. It's a reciprocation. It's not just easy come, easy go. While visiting in Srila Prabhupada's room, Srila Prabhupada and Advaita were discussing the purchase of the new printing press. Srila Prabhupada was looking at the book Advaita had brought. Srila Prabhupada said that the press should be kept clean. He said he had experience with his dictaphone that if he kept it clean, it would work properly. In Brooklyn Temple, Srila Prabhupada was leaving the temple, and all the devotees were lined against the wall watching him return to his quarters. My daughter Nandini was there. Srila Prabhupada touched her cheek and asked her to come with him. He put her arms out as though he was going to carry her. She made a shy gesture, and Srila Prabhupada said, "No, you are too attached to your mother to come." And when Srila Prabhupada was working on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, around the 7th, 8th, and 9th chapters, I'm not sure I was doing the transcribing in New York Temple. Prabhupada's servant would bring me the tape as soon as Srila Prabhupada was finished dictating, and I would immediately transcribe it. And actually at that time we didn't even have a dictaphone, a transcriber, we just had a reel-to-reel recording, and so I had to keep stopping with my finger, like stop, start, stop, and go back. So, and I would immediately transcribe it. And Srila Prabhupada was dictating one tape a day. Pradyumna giving it to me to transcribe, and then bringing the finished transcription back to Srila Prabhupada. Whatever time of the day or night it was, I would get woken up. Then Srila Prabhupada decided to dictate 2 tapes a day. He said that Balai Dasi was doing such nice work that it was encouraging him to do more. Of course, that was Prabhupada encouraging me to do more. Srila Prabhupada had a jar of Ganges water that he had been keeping with him on his travels. It was in an old instant coffee jar. He gave the jar of Ganges water to the Boston temple to put on the altar. The devotees said, oh, they would put it in a suitable container, but Srila Prabhupada said that the container that it was in was suitable. He also remarked how the water was already quite old but was still fresh, whereas had he been carrying regular water, it would have been now all bad. I think that's good. Anything else? Any questions?
How do you inspire, or how would you suggest us to inspire future generations to keep Prabhupada's memory and legacy alive?
To follow his instructions, not to deviate. I mean, even just dancing like Srila Prabhupada to me is so important. There's so many different kinds of dances now, but Prabhupada danced in a certain way, and that's how we were taught to dance. Following Prabhupada in his tunes that he sang in Kirtan. Sometimes you don't hear any tunes that Prabhupada sang, but I really think that the tunes Prabhupada gave us, he gave us for a reason, and they are so pure and simple. So those are 2 things right away. Is that good?
I don't even know if devotees know what they are. Maybe at some later date we could get those tunes from you.
Excuse me?
I think at some time after this we can get those tunes from you, unless you know them off the top of your head.
Well, they're there. Just listen to Prabhupada's chanting.
Okay.
Right? But maybe there's a compilation. That'd be good to have. Okay.
I have a question. I've seen that you have some, how do you say, attraction or service for Tulsi Devi. Did Prabhupada say something in regards of that to you, about Tulsi or instruction?
No.
No.
But I remember the first time I saw Tulsi Devi. I can remember distinctly the first time I saw Tulsi Devi. I was in Boston and some devotees had gone to New Vrindavan for a festival and brought Tulsi Devi back, and she came in the door with Ananga Manjari. Oh, Tulsi Devi. That's her mercy. Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled
Jai.
devotees.
Thank you, Mother Balai. Jai, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Brigapati Prabhu.
You're welcome. Thank you. That was absolute nectar. Our next speaker will be Arjun Gopaprabhu.
मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. So I had a fortune to be in Srila Prabhupada's car when we were coming from Rath Yatra parade. We have Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra and then Prabhupada. So when I was sitting, one lady came and she said that, why you are sitting next to a dead person? And I said no. And then I immediately remember Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's saying, he says, he reasons ill who says that Vaishnava die. When thou art living still in sound, the Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy names around. So Srila Prabhupada, he embodied this principle, and yesterday I happened to see the video wherein before just ending his earthly pastimes, he was dictating Srimad Bhagavatam, very touching, you feel like crying. And then we can see the clarity of thought So out of many gifts Srila Prabhupada had given, I particularly admire the gift of his purports. The reason being, if we just happen to read them carefully, they act like a filter paper. So nowadays, there is scientist versus spiritualist, but materialist. So that is very clear to distinguish. But even within spiritual teachings, we see that there are so many gurus. You just open internet and so many babas, sannyasis, and so many sadhus they are giving. But what Srila Prabhupada, and many very famous actually, but what Srila Prabhupada's purport has given is, just by hearing them for 5 minutes, we can make out whether they are genuine or not. And if we are not careful, what happens is that we get this gift of devotional service, and then after coming to ISKCON also, we go for nectar hunting, go for some reading Goswami's books, or hearing from some other babas who are telling esoteric pastimes. And that has kind of because of internet, that has trend. I see that in the new generation, it has become kind of fad. So what I particularly like Srila Prabhupada's teachings is that he has given us this clear filter to understand what is genuine versus what is fake. So on this day when we are celebrating his disappearance, I just beg that may I be chaste to his teachings and develop deep attraction for his purport. And then if I do that, I am very sure that neither material nor even so-called spiritual distractions can deviate myself and those who follow from the genuine path of devotional service. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for giving us this purpose. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai Prabhu, thank you. Hare Krishna. Our next speaker, Brajapati Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So, I would like to start by remembering that we are in Kartik month. And in Kartik month we sing the Damodar Astak prayer every morning. So, Mother Yashoda is called Yashoda. Yashoda means yash. Yash in the way that it's a glorification. How is she glorified? Because she made Krishna do something that glorifies Lord Krishna. What did she do? She bound the Lord. And because she bound the Lord, a yash is created for the Lord, because the Lord cannot be bound. So similarly today, being the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada, we need to speak something about his yash, his glories. What is it that Srila Prabhupada did for us? And so I would like to speak on those aspects. Before I speak, this is something that was just recently released from Govinda Dasi. I don't know if anyone asked this. So I wanted to share this. So Govinda Dasi found some old Indian newspapers from the 1970s in an attic, in boxes, and one had an article about Srila Prabhupada written by an astrologer. Nobody can read this chart. This is about Srila Prabhupada. Nobody can read his chart. If they say they can, they are simply lying. This personality comes and goes at his own sweet will. He is not bound by anybody or anything. The stars are lined up perfectly. There is no question of karma. He is working directly under the will of God. And when he writes, his pen does not have in it ink. His pen has in it fire, which will burn the ignorance of the whole world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is an astrologer speaking about Srila Prabhupada. I am in the business world, and so I would like to speak the glories of Srila Prabhupada in respect to the modern world. not just from a spiritual element. We all know Srila Prabhupada's contribution spiritually. But I think it's very important for us to relate Srila Prabhupada's contributions in relation to the modern society, our work lives, and all that. So, Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada stands out in modern spiritual history because of how he translated an ancient wisdom into global transformation. Today we are sitting here because Srila Prabhupada created a whole world in which we can live with different nationalities. This is a global transformation done by one man at the age of 69. What makes him uniquely remarkable is not only what he accomplished, but how he did it and why it worked. So this is leadership. Servant leadership is what we are speaking today in management. Srila Prabhupada was a visionary 50 years ago, more than 50 years ago. He already knew about servant leadership, which today is being taught to us. So we'll see what Srila Prabhupada did. Here's what truly sets him apart. Globalized bhakti from local tradition to a worldwide movement. At the age of 69, with almost no money, no institutional backing, and no contacts, he sailed alone from India to New York in 1965. Within just 12 years, he built a global movement, ISKCON, the Hare Krishna movement, with 108 temples, schools, and farm communities across 6 continents. He turned a small Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage into a worldwide spiritual culture. How did he do it? He was a scholar and translator, made sacred texts available. He translated and wrote over 70 volumes of Sanskrit scriptures like Bhagavad Gita as it is and Srimad Bhagavatam into English, with deep purpose explaining the meaning for modern readers. His writings combined academic precision and spiritual devotion, bridging East and West. See how we bridge the East and West. Academic precision and spiritual devotion. Today, his books are translated into 90 plus languages and are used in universities globally. Unshakable faith and clarity of purpose. Srila Prabhupada had unshakable faith. And yet a clarity. He was a visionary. Successful people, including Steve Jobs, were visionaries. Srila Prabhupada was a visionary. How was he a visionary? He had one clear mission: to spread Krishna consciousness worldwide, as instructed by his Guru. He never doubted the goal, no matter how impossible it seemed. His faith was practical. He saw no difference between spiritual life and daily life. Try sincerely and Krishna will help. He showed us by example. That's why he's an acharya. Leadership through spiritual strength, not leadership through material education. It is leadership through spiritual strength. He led not by power, but by purity, example, and conviction. Look at the traits of modern leadership and look at the traits that Srila Prabhupada is portraying. He did not lead by power, he led by purity, example, and conviction. His discipline, humility, and compassion inspired total dedication in others. He turned disoriented youth of the 1960s into monks, teachers, and community leaders by awakening their higher purpose. Simplicity and detachment. Even as ISKCON grew rich and global, he personally lived very simply, slept little, ate sparingly, and remained detached from fame or comfort. We have heard several times from Srila Prabhupada's disciples that Srila Prabhupada was humility personified. And so he was again showing us through Acharya, and something very important, that he did not only live very simply, but his authenticity made his message very credible. Srila Prabhupada's message made it very credible. He embodied what he taught: simple living, high thinking. Revolutionized spiritual practice. He brought kirtan, chanting the holy names, into public life, in parks, streets, and music festivals. This made Bhakti Yoga joyful, inclusive, and experiment, and not just philosophical. Chanting became a bridge between spiritual and social life. Compassionate vision for all humanity. We know he's Paradukha Dukhi. He's in the mood of Paradukha Dukhi. He didn't limit spirituality to a religion or race. He saw every soul as a child of God. His movement welcomed everyone, east or west, scholar or hippie, rich or poor. He wanted not converts, but transformed hearts. Tireless work ethic. He wrote, taught, managed, and traveled constantly, often sleeping only 3 to 4 hours a night. His energy and discipline were beyond normal limits. He showed what one person fully surrendered can achieve with divine purpose. So what are the summaries? I'm being told to cut, so I'm going to cut. I have a lot to say about Srila Prabhupada, but this is what we want to just remember Srila Prabhupada. What was his quality? Faith, absolute confidence in Krishna's plan. Courage, started at 69, alone in a foreign land. Clarity, one mission, spread bhakti globally. What was his compassion? So all beings are souls, not bodies. Discipline, live the ideals he preached. Vision, blended timeless wisdom with modern world. And impact, change millions of lives permanently. Hare Krishna. I don't want to take more time, but there is a lot to say. And you know I can speak for long. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu, yeah. Our next speaker is Ashram Maharaj.
Suspense. I wrote a little essay. I call it Considering Srila Prabhupada's Mercy. About 500 years ago, Lord Krishna personally appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in place of the avatar for the age of Kali. Lord Chaitanya had two purposes for coming: to experience firsthand the bliss of serving Krishna, and to spread pure love for Krishna, which is very rare. Writing about Lord Chaitanya's plan for making his mercy widely available, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Doya Koraha Bichar, Bichar Koriri Chite Pave Chamatkar. If you are indeed interested in logic and argument, kindly apply them to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If you do, you will find it strikingly wonderful. Actually, Lord Chaitanya revolutionized Vaishnavism. He took Krishna consciousness into the streets when he inaugurated the congregational chanting of Krishna's holy names, and deputed bands of devotees to widely preach the glories of Sankirtan and pure devotional service. He himself traveled all over India preaching Krishna consciousness. He specifically deputed Lord Nityananda to preach in Bengal. Whereas Lord Chaitanya's direct followers came mostly from the higher social classes, Lord Nityananda made absolutely no distinction. He approached anyone and everyone, as demonstrated in his pastime with Jagai and Madhai, and implored them to take up devotional service to Krishna, accompanied by chanting Hare Krishna. In the mid-19th century, Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur saw that Lord Chaitanya's teachings had become distorted in several ways and had fallen into disrepute. He conceived a dynamic plan to spread the glories of devotional service to everyone around the world. Part of his program was a modern approach to presenting Krishna consciousness. He presented the philosophy of Srimad Bhagavatam in a way that even those who were influenced by modern Western philosophies, both in India and abroad, could appreciate it. Essential to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's revolutionary view was the understanding that Lord Chaitanya was not exaggerating when he said that his name would be sung in every town and village around the world. Bhaktivinoda wrote in his monthly journal Sajjanatoshini, Sriman Mahaprabhu did not descend with his associates to deliver a certain number of human beings in the land of India, but rather his purpose was to deliver and uplift all living beings in all countries of the world by practicing the eternal religion of all souls. He quoted a verse from Chaitanya Bhagavat in which the Lord predicted, "My name will be preached in all the countries and towns that exist throughout the world." Bhaktivinoda Thakur then expressed his heart's desire. There are many kinds of religion in the world, and among all of them, the highest development of religion is the congregational chanting of the Supreme Lord's divine names. Of this there is no doubt. Alas, when will that day come when greatly fortunate souls in countries such as England, France, Russia, Prussia, and America will take up banners, kettle drums, mridangas, and kartals, and thus cause the ecstatic waves of Harinam Kirtan and the singing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's holy name to rise in the streets of their towns and cities. Oh, when will that day come when pure and transcendental Vaishnava prema will be the only religion of all souls, and all tiny sectarian religions will meet in the unlimited and universal religion of Vaishnavism as rivers merge into a great ocean. Oh, when will that day come? Bhaktivinoda Thakur's plan for propagating Krishna consciousness also included reviving a scientific Daivi Varnashram system to help make society more conducive to spiritual culture. He passed this vision of preaching Krishna consciousness to his son and Shiksha disciple, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who extended Bhaktivinoda's revolution by taking concrete steps to reinstitute Varnashram Dharma. Asserting that Vaishnavas are as good as Brahmanas, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati gave his disciples the sacred thread at initiation, regardless of their family lineage. He also reintroduced the ashram of Tridandi Sannyas to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Moreover, he created an organized institution for systematically propagating Krishna consciousness and trained his disciples to aggressively confront all forms of false religion. Throughout his preaching career, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati exhorted everyone he met to help spread Krishna consciousness to the entire world. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada recounted that when he first met his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta immediately challenged him and his friends, as educated young men familiar with English, to take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission seriously and to teach it to those who spoke English. In his last days, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati told his disciples to, above all, work cooperatively to continue and expand the systematic preaching he had begun, following Bhaktivinoda's instructions. Among Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's many disciples who were working to spread Lord Chaitanya's message as broadly as they could, Srila Prabhupada worked steadily toward further extending this transcendental revolution. We know now how he persisted over the years to satisfy Bhaktivinoda's and Bhakti Siddhanta's desire for systematically making Krishna consciousness available to everyone, everywhere in the world. He worked with his godbrothers for decades, published Back to Godhead single-handedly and distributed it himself, wrote Easy Journey to Other Planets, translated Srimad Bhagavatam, and coaxed Sumati Murarji to give him passage on a freighter to New York, where he arrived practically penniless at the age of 70. After suffering 2 heart attacks on the ship, Srila Prabhupada struggled in New York to distribute his books and establish the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He worked tirelessly for 12 years to translate, publish, and distribute many authentic Vedic literatures, established temples on every continent except Antarctica, and trained thousands of his disciples to carry on his work. In 1976, while Srila Prabhupada was staying in Honolulu, some friends of mine spent a night in the temple's front yard. Unable to sleep, they stayed up until Mangalarati, chanting japa and watching the window of Srila Prabhupada's room. He was up all night writing his books, occasionally stopping to chant devotional bhajans with his harmonium. Although he was almost 80 years old, he worked through the night to satisfy the desires of his spiritual master and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Looking back, one of Srila Prabhupada's prominent godbrothers, B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, concluded that Srila Prabhupada had been personally empowered by Lord Nityananda to give Krishna consciousness to everyone, everywhere in the world. After reading the poems Srila Prabhupada had written aboard the Jaladuta and on his arrival at Boston Harbor, he reasoned that Srila Prabhupada had emptied himself of all desires except to spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message. And very much like Lord Nityananda, who gave everyone he encountered the most valuable treasure of chanting Hare Krishna in exchange for only a little faith. Srila Prabhupada freely distributed the holy name of Krishna to anyone who showed even enough faith to stop and listen for a moment. Lord Nityananda distributed what amounted to free samples of the highest spiritual realization, confident that those who tried the sample would want to buy his product, possibly becoming steady customers. Talking about the business world here. Srila Prabhupada also gave free samples of Harinam, advertising it with the slogan, "Chant Hare Krishna and your life will be sublime." Consequently, millions who tried it became lifetime customers, if not distributors. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had implored his disciples to work vigorously to spread Krishna consciousness everywhere, thus satisfying the desires of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The line of Bhaktivinoda will never be closed, he wrote. With even more enthusiasm, you should become engaged in preaching the desire of Bhaktivinoda's heart. He figuratively exhorted all his disciples to be prepared to shed hundreds of gallons of blood for the nourishment of the spiritual corpus of every individual in this world. Considering objectively what Srila Prabhupada did in his lifetime, we can safely conclude that he set the perfect example of sacrificing everything to satisfy Krishna. It's clear that he understood the revolutionary desires of Lord Chaitanya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and worked to bring about what Srimad Bhagavatam calls a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Anyone who uses logic and argument to consider the mercy of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, will certainly find it strikingly wonderful. All glories to Srila.
Charles, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. That was very beautiful. Our next speaker is Judah Karma Prabhu.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, on this your disappearance day, as always I wonder what to say. No words come easily to my mind, but let me see what I can find. I found a few, and now I place these words before your divine grace. The first words that came to me were inheritance and legacy. You left us with riches beyond measure, and we did our best. And we did our best to keep this treasure. You gave us the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in entirety. You told us increase it if you can, but at least maintain it. That was your plan. We have done the best we could to do things as you said we should. To your movement, I came in 1974. I was 26 when I walked in the door. Krishna, as time, worked so mysterious. Suddenly I'm 77, time to get serious. We now, the elders, will soon leave the stage and pass your legacy to those of younger age, who will continue to chant, feast, and dance, preserving and increasing their inheritance. O Srila Prabhupada, these words I offer you in rhyme were composed for you just in time. I wish I could feel more separation and loss. Thus praise your servant, Juda Karma Das. Hare Krishna.
Oh, thank you, Judah Kampo. Your body's getting older, but your poems keep getting better and better. I was ecstatic. Now, come up, Prabhu, please.
I didn't write anything, but my wife did. So I wanted to share it with everyone. Dearest Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada, and all the amazing feats you have accomplished. All glories to all your devotees, and all glories all over the world, and to all your devotees all over the world that love you and serve you. I am beyond grateful that I get to take shelter of you and all your devotees. I know you created my good fortune, and I will always be indebted to you. I pray to increase my surrender, dedication, and love. I know I have a long way to go, but by your mercy, I will never give up. Thanking you millions, trillions, billions, and gazillions over and over again. All my love, Jagajanani Dasi. I find it difficult to say much or talk or write even on this day, but I wanted to share one experience I had which helped me to understand how how attractive and merciful a devotee can be. When and how we found out that Srila Prabhupada had left the planet. We were in Minneapolis, in the airport there, and if anyone knows anything about Minneapolis, it's a pretty tough place to distribute. For some reason, it's just an odd place to do Sankirtan. And during this time period, there were a lot of people, especially airport employees, who would harass devotees during the course of their distribution, as they do everywhere, and even now, of course. But in those days, even the pilots would harass the devotees. They would come through the concourse just looking for devotees just to disrupt their activities. And they had this common thing with a clicker, and you could hear it a lot. Whenever a pilot would come through or an airport employee, and you heard this clicking sound, then you know that they were about to disrupt something. So on the day that, this particular day, we were in the airport distributing, and this tall pilot with quite a big famous airline came. I saw him coming from the side as we were discussing with some young person, and I was thinking to myself, great, I finally found someone who's willing to listen, and here it comes. This guy is going to do something. And so he came up and he stopped. He didn't say a word until I was finished. He was polite enough to do that. And then he said, I wanted to offer my condolences. And I was a little taken back. And he said, that I just found out that your founder, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, has passed away. And we hadn't heard it yet. We were just out on Sankirtan. And prior to that, we had heard that Srila Prabhupada was ill. So we were hoping against hope that we could go to Mayapur, and the word was out that Srila Prabhupada wanted his disciples to come. So we were going back and forth. There was one group who said, no, you should stay and do your service. That would be offensive. You need to stick to your work. And others would say, no, now is the time to be with Srila Prabhupada. He's even asking, even the word is out, that devotees should come. So when we heard this, obviously a lot of things came up. And at first it was just, are you joking? No, but this is a fact, that your spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, your guru, he said, has passed away, and I just wanted to offer my condolences because I really appreciated this man. And it just struck me that Srila Prabhupada, and this is the effect of devotee association, and that even the ruffians, Dhira Janapriyo, the six Goswamis were so dear to the ruffians as well as the devotees, that Srila Prabhupada, could be so pure that even a ruffian, a rough person who had no interest in spiritual life, and we all have that experience, could be affected by this person. And it just helped me to appreciate how merciful and how important it is to be in the association of devotees. We can't underestimate it. So thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Ekam Prabhu. Our next speaker is Magendra Prabhu.
Om Aginal Tumardasya Ginanganash Lagya Chakshus Anulatamina Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. So we're instructed to glorify the Guru on not only his appearance day but also his disappearance day. They're treated equally in certain kind of Vaishnava etiquette. So to glorify Prabhupada, this is like a friendly crowd. And everyone agrees with his spiritual excellence, that he's pure devotee. So we don't have to tell stories about that. But to really glorify Prabhupada, we cannot change. Because if we're saying that whatever he ordered is pure and it's right from Krishna, then we have to follow the order. So, for example, Nikantma Prabhu mentioned when Prabhupada was very ill and there was a question whether devotees should go to India. Actually, I talked to Rameshwar Prabhu. He admitted that Prabhupada actually ordered his disciples to all come to India. It wasn't that there was some kind of ambiguous order. But some people had the nerve to change, thinking that they knew better what was good for this movement. So that's a danger for people who are not on the level of an acharya. An acharya can make changes. That's Prabhupada had authority right from Krishna that he can make changes. Other people do not have that authority unless they're on the level of an acharya. Plus, he's not only acharya, he's the founder acharya of an institution. So I happen to be an attorney. Brajbhati Prabhu was nice enough to give his comments about Prabhupada's management. So spiritually, his credentials are pure and expert, and also his management ability. But specifically, I found that he also was correct in his orders in reference to legal matters. And a lot of people that may think, well, that was time, place, and matter. But we should understand that he had visions and direction right from Krishna. So it's not that we can minimize his position and say that for spiritual things he's perfect, but in material things he's not. So that's the other thing that I wanted to mention. We were in New Vrindavan for Prabhupada's appearance day, and I made a comment that was accepted. Nobody had a question, but I have a question because we have a senior crowd here. That because Balai was mentioning we want to follow Prabhupada's dance. Well, again, it's not just his dance, but he gave order to his disciples to do things a certain way. Not that, well, we just want to follow Prabhupada. No, he actually gave an order. I was in Chicago once and devotees were running up and down, banging up against the walls, hitting each other. At that point, Prabhupada stopped the ecstatic kirtan and said, no, you dance the way Lord Chaitanya instructed. Similarly, there's something that I mentioned in Vrindavan, and some of the other disciples agreed with me. that when Prabhupada was here, we addressed him as Prabhupada. We didn't say Jai Prabhupada. This is a concoction, okay? It actually hurts my heart when I hear that. It's like if someone says, I want you to call me Ram, my name is Ram. And then you think, oh, I'll call him Rama. That is better. So this is something, maybe I can ask the question if somebody has some kind of historical evidence that Prabhupada addressed his guru as Prabhupada, or that he wanted his disciples to address him as Prabhupada, then I'll have to change my own feelings about the matter. But as I've asked so many people, and no one can actually say, other than someone called Jai Sachinandan, brought it in a kirtan and thought this was a better thing. So that's my comments, whatever it's worth. If somebody can correct me, I'd appreciate it, because otherwise certain things bother me, and it's like Prabhupada said, when someone slams a door, it would break his heart. So there's certain things, when I hear Prabhupada called Prabhupada, it actually hurts me. So other than that, I just wanted to comment in terms of that when Prabhupada gave orders, he actually in management, he only gave a few major orders. There was a lot of minor orders, like how to do some kind of service or how to work on a certain kind of festival, but he only gave a few major orders to all the temples. Some orders he would give to individual disciples, and of course that disciple would have to take it. But some orders he gave for all the temples. He'd write a letter, say, to all temples. So these have to be followed. Not that someone has authority to change. For example, in his will, in his will, Prabhupada said that we can do certain things if there's a need for it. For example, in the Western world, selling or mortgaging a temple. But he used the word need, not want. And also, he said, as far as management, things should go on as they are. There's no need to change. So, thank you.
Okay, our next speaker will be Rabindranath Prabhu.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vasaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Vaskachate Shatarne. So I remember Srila Prabhupada, he came here many years. Every year he'd come to Los Angeles. I remember I first saw him, it was either 71 or 72. The devotees were giving a lecture. Well, they were waiting for Prabhupada to come to give the class or for the Sunday feast, and they were speaking. And then Prabhupada came in, and I was trying to understand what he was saying, but it was very difficult for me to understand because of the accent and everything. But after some time, after hearing so many classes, and I was able to understand him. And so just a few pastimes I remember that he was during a couple of initiations. One initiation, one devotee came in. He was one brahmachari, Spanish brahmachari. And he had back in those days we just had regular shirts and t-shirts or whatever. And so he drew a picture of Krishna on the back of his t-shirt. And then he came to get initiated by Prabhupada, and Prabhupada saw the picture of Krishna on the back of his t-shirt, and he said, you could have it on the front, but not on your back. like that. And I remember one other time there was, because we were instructed, all the initiates should have 3 neck beads going around like that, the neck, and there wasn't enough to go 3 times around the devotee's neck. And so Prabhupada said, "Who has done this?" And the actual person was the person who was in charge of doing that was Kadamba Kanana. He was a temple commander at the time, but Kuranda, who was a GBC, he took responsibility and he said it was my fault, Prabhupada. And I remember once Prabhupada was they were going to have a play for Prabhupada. They were going to put on a play. Prajapati was going to put on a play, and it was about Palambasura. And so he dressed up as there were cowherd boys playing as cowherd boys, and then Balaram, the devotees playing Balaram, got on Prajapati's shoulders, and they went into the corner of the temple room, which was where the doll museum is right now. And so Prajapati was trying to put on his monster mask, and he kind of lost balance, and he was kind of almost falling. And Srila Prabhupada was laughing during that time. And so those are a few pastimes that are. Also, I remember during that time I used to work in the kitchen cutting up vegetables, and so they would always bring Prabhupada's plate into the kitchen for his breakfast. He would take his breakfast, and so they would bring his plate, the remnants of his plate, into the kitchen. And so if you were there, you were able to get Prabhupada's remnants. And I remember how the oranges they had for Prabhupada, they would cut them into quarters. So Prabhupada I could see the pulp in the quarter of the orange, so I could understand. But when Prabhupada was eating the oranges, he put them in his mouth and he just sucked out the juice and left the pulp like that. So these are a few things I can remember Prabhupada. And later on, we got this temple room was like 74, 75, and it's basically the same chandeliers are there. These chandeliers were in the old temple room, same ones. And we used to have dioramas up on where the balcony, that kind of balcony is up there. And the same Vyasa-san, Narayan got it from Mexico. He got it made in Mexico and he brought it here. And it's the same one. The only difference is it's been reupholstered. That's the only difference. And the same deity, the deities that were here during that time, we used to have paper mache Gaurnitai. Those are the ones that Prabhupada took darshan of. After Prabhupada left, we got new deities, marble Gaurnitai, and we got new brass Gaurnitai, and Rukmini Dwarkadish and Rukmini Dwarkanath are the same deities that were here when Prabhupada was here. And Jagannath's altar, the small Jagannath was there, but the big Jagannath, they're new deities since after Prabhupada left. And so those are a few of the pastimes I remember. And I also remember his servant, I think it was Hari Sari, gave me some of Srila Prabhupada's milk. I think maybe just like the extra that Prabhupada didn't take. And it was kind of sweet, but it wasn't as sweet as we're used to in the ashram. And Srila Prabhupada, I heard him on a tape, he was saying, I also have diabetes. But Srila Prabhupada didn't seem to care about his diet as far as, because I heard sometimes devotees were trying to make a healthy diet, real bland, and Prabhupada said, no, bring me my regular prasadam like that. And so we were fortunate to take Prabhupada's personal association. I remember I got initiated by him in the old temple room, and he asked me, what are the 4 regulated principles? And I said, reciting them off. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no mean and gambling. And he said, what about cigarettes? And I said, no cigarettes. And so there's 2 types of association. There's Vapu and Vani. So Vapu is not always easily attainable. Like the regular brahmacharis in the ashram, we didn't get much personal associate. Of course, we went to classes. We saw Prabhupada in class, so that was got a lot of mercy in that way. But I remember sometimes in the garden, they just had a few guests on there, but we would go up in the, which is now, it's a gift shop storage room. That used to be the Prashadam room for the householders and the brahmacharis. They would take Prashadam there. So we would go in there when Prabhupada was in the garden, and we would look at Prabhupada in the through the windows like that. And then I remember one devotee came up and said, you shouldn't stare at Prabhupada, that's not polite. And we didn't buy that. And so anyway, so there's Vapu and there's Vani. So we just have to follow. Vani is always appreciated and it's always available, so anybody could take advantage of Srila Prabhupada's books and get his association. As Prabhupada mentions in the Madhya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says, all the members of the Krishna conscious movement must read all the books that have been translated, namely Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, etc. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down. So we have to read these books, especially the translated books. There's actually Prabhupada translated 9 books. The Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Krishna book, Light of the Bhagavat, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar Devotion, Nectar Instruction, and Sri Upanishad. So we should focus on reading those books. And on the morning walk, Srila Prabhupada said that there's 9 translated books, 9 words, Prabhupada said. You can associate with me by reading my books. So in this way, we could get Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, thank you so much for all the wonderful things that you've given us in the form of this movement and the amazing facilities that we have for learning how to serve Krishna and learning how to associate, learning Vaishnava culture and how to live our life with real purpose. This is a wonderful inheritance that you gave us. And also with the inheritance, we also received the legacy. The legacy, you said that 50% of your work was still unfulfilled. And so I think if you just look at the news today, we can understand why Prabhupada said about Varnashram being very important, because this movement has to carry on. We have to be able to survive all the turmoils of the material world. We have to be able to carry on serving Krishna. We need basic facilities and we need food, and those things are getting very difficult to get in any kind of quality food is very difficult to get. Everything is rather old and very much chemically preserved, and this will affect in so many ways. Even the milk, well, the milk is maybe the main thing. The main problem is that we can't get good milk, and the good milk is so important, Prabhupada explained, for having the very fine brain cells, for really understanding this very sublime knowledge which we've been handed down and given the responsibility to pass on for prosperity. And so I don't know why it's like that, but I've always had a very strong desire around Vedic villages, and if anyone here is interested and has a similar vision, I would very much like to talk with you and see if we can actually start to, at least make some steps forward in that regard. Because Prabhupada told us about the future. He told us of a very bright future with Krishna, and a future full of ecstasy, of Krishna consciousness. But he also told us about what was going to happen to the cities. He told us those things. We know what happens to cities in the future. And the way things are going, we don't know exactly when, but we need to be preparing and we need to be talking about. Please, everyone, please start to think about this more seriously, because Prabhupada left it in our hands. And how will the movement carry on if the infrastructure around us crumbles? How are we going to carry on this preaching movement? So Srila Prabhupada, thank you so much for everything. We have such a wonderful life, and your real desire was to see everyone happy and Krishna conscious. And if we can spread that in the world and bring some light, then we will feel our life successful. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Harpal, you saw the law, Prabhu? Yeah. We're going to try to squeeze one more speaker in here. Yeah, go. Sit down and speak.
We have to chant the prayers. It's time to chant the prayer.
No time. All right, so I have to apologize. I would like to thank all the devotees who spoke and apologize to the devotees who wanted to speak but didn't get a chance. The program will continue this evening at 7 o'clock in Prabhupada's room upstairs. So those who didn't get a chance to speak but would like to, please go to that program and hopefully you'll get a chance to speak then. So next part of our program will be the Pushpanjali ceremony that will be conducted by our Temple Vice President, Laikamba.
Hare Krishna, everyone please stand and come close and grab some flowers enough to offer for 3 times. As soon as the prasadam is removed, we'll start our